Hello, this is Pharaoh Vincent. Continuing on our lore series, I wanted to go ahead and bring us Arbiter Part 2. And for anyone paying attention, there is a delay between recordings. I did the Unnameable and the Supreme Arbiter Part 1 kind of back to back, starting to lose my voice, so I decided to wait a little bit, and then I got sick, and so it takes time. These kinds of series go through a while. In Arbiter Part 1, we did go over Praetus, Elysia, Ingrid, and Alistair, as I recall. And I think Thalon too. That makes sense, yes. Just quickly glance through his story to make sure it makes sense to me. It does. Yeah. So, ultimately, if I end up missing anything and I go back and I look at the other footage and then I realize, oh, hey, I missed somebody, I'll add an extra video down the road. For now, though, I do want to jump in. Similar to the previous videos, we're going to go over the lore of the character. We're not going into abilities. We're not going to talk about tier lists. Nothing like that. We're just going to talk about heroes. And as we left off on Thalon, I felt like, trying to figure out which one to go to next was the hard part for me, just because from here we don't really have a lot of bridging. I kind of want to go in reverse order of release is kind of the way I look at it, specifically with Lady Alexandra next. So she is a killer devoted to order. Those who defy order will be marked by Lady Alexandra and be trialed by her double crossbows. And you can kind of see the difference in writing, by the way, with some of these newer heroes. So I'm hoping that that plans out into the story. Even in darkness there is light, the Arbiters' creed. Sworn into a life of secrecy, Lady Alexandra kept an intensively low profile, implementing the grimier aspects of Tia's factional struggles. Through operating independently under the Star Piercers as a mercenary for hire, those with access to information knew her as the hired blades of the North. That seems a little weird. She doesn't have blades. Born not of royal blood, her life became intertwined with the crown's fate through tragic circumstances. Raided during the dead of winter by several Goliaths scavenging for food, Lady Alexandra watched in horror as her parents were savagely impaled and cooked alive before her very eyes. Amused by the impotence of a human child, they smashed apart the house and left her to freeze to death in the snow. Although later rescued by a band of Northerner patrol, Lady Alexandra's heart had already gone cold. Tempered by such fierce cruelty, her conscience numbed, and her thoughts bordered on nihilism. There was no bringing them back. Grief was merely a weakness of the mind. Beyond life and death, there was only power and the art of administering it. Robbed of her childhood, all that she knew, Lady Alexandra began taking bounties from wealthy merchants and despots alike. Her blades bore no loyalty. She became known as a ruthless assassin with a wicked shot and a penchant for crossbows. It wouldn't be too long before the monarchs and war planners learned of her reputation. As fate would have it, Lady Alexandra's path intersected with the Arbiters through Valkyra. Though not directly associated, Valkyra was aware of this indignant figure and could sense her struggle. Secretly, Lady Alexandra's soul had ached violently for redemption, but found it difficult to reconcile with her past. Viewed as a potential force for good, Lady Alexandra was let in on the organization forming let in on this organization forming in pursuit of harmony, order, and righteousness. Ideals that in the deepest recesses of her mind she intensely yearned for. She would ingratiate herself with the arbiters in exchange for her skills. Seems weird. And was and eventually was granted audience with the gods, who admired her calloused and found naivety useful. I found her naivety useful, vowing to uphold order in Tia at all costs and combat against the forces of darkness. Lady Alexandra pledged her allegiance to the arbiters and was thusly anointed with a divine power, a form of validation which she had deeply longed for. Blessed by the gods themselves and infused with their power, Lady Alexandra no longer harbored any qualms. Her zeal was palpable, and her conviction was unwavering. As a proponent of absolute order, all ends justifies their means, or justified their means. Above all else, reason would dominate, and above all else, pure power would reign supreme. Okay, I don't hate the whole story. I will say that the last sentence, above all else, twice is weird. You don't need the second one, it's redundant. Right? Above all else, reason would dominate and pure power would reign supreme. Like, anyways, that's Grammando. I don't mean to go completely Grammando. The big issue that I'm running into is around this whole blades concept, right? She doesn't really have them. I get that she's an assassin, so clearly she used them at some point. But like, it wouldn't be hard to, work in just the crossbowness of it. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's whatever. I appreciate that they explain both sides of her actual faction. They don't do that a lot in this for most stories, so I appreciate those facts. And I'll move on to the person who found her. So we have Valkyra. Reincarnated as a demigod, Valkyra slashes enemies from a great distance and can revive fallen comrades. She's a Valkyrie. Anyways. The eldest daughter of King Hars of Fort Blacklast. The story of Valkyra and how this demigod came to protect the people of Fort Blacklast has passed into local legend, a symbol of the victory of light over dark and the power of purity. Living through one of the most difficult periods in the region's history, fraught with war, plague, and famine, Valkyra led her life as a pure soul, helping others when in need. As the frost giants to the north terrorized the villages around Fort Blacklast during the War of the White Knight, laying siege to the land, Valkyra defended a rope bridge over a chasm, providing a route to safety in the castle. Standing alone as she slew enemies with her mighty sword. Oh God, Loskafi. Why not? When she saw the last remaining villager had made it across, she ran over the bridge to lure the giants across before severing the ropes and standing upon it before falling to her death with the frost giants. Her pure soul created a beacon so light it is said to have briefly illuminated the darkness as the black dragon swooped down to protect Fort Blacklast, inspiring the armies of King Hars to win a hard-fought victory. It is said that when a body of pure soul dies, it attracts a spirit of Aurora. In Valkyra's case, a Valkyrie soul that had similarly fallen selflessly in battle against darkness, was drawn to Valkyra's body, a fusion of two souls brought back from the dead, more powerful than ever as a demigod. Her now divine spirit drove Valkyra to swear to protect the human world from darkness. However, Valkyra's humanity pushed her to defy the laws of the gods, using her demigod body to build an impregnable barrier in the far north, preventing the invasion of the frost giants and protecting the people of Fort Blacklast. Furthermore, protecting the people of Fort Blacklast, subsequently punished by the gods for meddling in the affairs and forbidden from ever visiting their realm, Valkyra soars over Tia with the light glinting on her armor and sword Leoskafi to protect humanity and push back the darkness. Okay, we don't know who Aurora is. We know that this black dragon is Ajax. Although Ajax doesn't mention Valkyra in his story. Yeah, okay. That's all I have to say on this one for now. We've already gone through Ajax, so we get to pick somebody at random. Let's go with, again, reverse order. Upon ascending to divinity, in it, wielding the pride of a true god, will engage in combat personally, or will not engage in combat personally. Instead, he bestows the ancient cores upon his mortal allies to strike at his enemies. I mean, but he does engage in combat personally, though. You know. He's like, anyways, whatever. His was a soul that sought not just to conquer death, but to enslave it. In his quest for immortality, he became prisoner of his own making. The esotericist stage. In times past, the Mordius was ruled by powerful pharaohs, kings of vast expanse who sought to amass power and transcend their mortal bounds in search of everlasting life. Of these ancient rulers, perhaps few were as driven as Init the Embalmer. Having amassed an empire of wealth, yet still unable to withstand time's cruel embrace, Init was confounded by the mysteries of death and the great beyond. In his quest for immortality, he would spare no effort to appease his gods, sacrificing fields of livestock and constructing ornate shrines on the backs of the peasantry. But as the time marched on, Init's deepest fear began to claw away at him. Desperate for answers, Init became reckless, and one night imbibed an entire vial of seer's tinctures in hopes of seeking the truth. Init soon found himself deep in a vision, traversing through a swarthy and nebulous realm, his entire being pulsating with energy as he drifted effortlessly through the fabric of time. He found that with a flick of his wrist, he could create matter or destroy it all the same. It was here in this shadowy nether where Init had his first revelation. He emerged emboldened and immediately ordered a blood offering to be prepared. The next day, with his followers present at the sacrificial altar, Init's face flashed with a wicked grin. As the incantations were being recited, he approached the poor soul at the altar and drew his blade. And in a shocking display, he tossed the man aside and proceeded to impale himself. cackling vociferously. I had actually haven't heard this word. Crackling vociferously as his blood slowly emptied into the altar's bowl. Legend claims that his lust for power had consumed him, driving him into the depths of insanity. But legend, of course, is a tale written by the living. It wasn't until centuries later when the order began making their inroads into the Mortius, exploring the region in pursuit of knowledge, when they stumbled upon in its tomb. However, encrusted with strange hieroglyphs and ancient treasures, a powerful presence could immediately be felt. They channeled their magic and attempted to contact the spirit, and for a brief moment, in it was glimpsed. Troubled with what they had saw, the ominous chamber was reported to the supreme arbiters who came to investigate. In the tomb, filled with the dank, rotten smell of death, the arbiters sensed danger. They requested contact with the spirit, and the esotericists began the ritual. What presented itself next, however, was no longer a human, but a blackened beast with a jackal's head, surrounded by mysterious cores that appeared to manifest at will. And its ascendance to immortality had been complete. Convinced the tomb would be discovered by rival factions, the Arbiters boldly decided to resummon this nether being into the world using the esotericist's magic, shackling him in with divine power. Alas, such was the ironic fate of Enit, the embalmer, a god king who had once gained and lost everything, a heart of darkness, shackled in by divine will. He serves as a testament to the intense power struggle forming in the Tian realm. His fate now inextricably bound to forces beyond himself. I mean, seems fine. We know why he's Arbiter Esotericist. We talk about his abilities a bit. It's alright. That was not bad. Alright, let's do Jira. Why not? Once controlled by Kujo, this warrior overcame the deity's will with her noble soul. Her prize was a powerful body that surpassed mortal limits. She slew a god. What chance do you imagine having? While few are immune to gross manipulation, control at a cosmic scale is another game entirely. When Jira, the golden lioness, turned to the gods, she did so in good faith. When she could no longer trust them, she turned within. It has been centuries since the collective splintered in two, reverberations of its schism echoing painfully throughout Tia. In answer to the Chaos Dominion, comprised of those who would turn to demonic magic, the Supreme Arbiters formed and opened their souls to holier deities, aiming to fight fire with cleansing light. But gods are not without their own ambitions, and many viewed the vulnerable arbiters as pawns to be maneuvered in their infinite war against demons. Jira was to be one such pawn. As the arbiter's most adept warrior, Jira was uniquely selected for a binding ritual that would align her soul with one of the gods. She was loath to give up her autonomy, and only the silver tongue of Praetus convinced her to bear her soul skyward for the sake of Tia. Of all who bid for her, ultimately Kujo, the lion god, meddled with the young warrior. Their fusion was profound, and Jira felt an otherworldly strength coursing through her. The once mortal warrior became a force of nature, her every movement resonating with godly power. Yet, as the days passed, darkness seeped into her conscience. Unbeknownst to Jira, Kujo sought to use her as a weapon, a merciless force that would obliterate countless sacrificial innocents in the pursuit of inflicting suffering on his demonic foes. Haunted by the dreams of tearing the jugulars of commoners, Jira realized the true nature of her alliance, resolving herself to free herself from the lion god's malevolent influence. With clear eyes, she confronted Kujo on a mystic plane, deep within herself. A fierce battle ensued, physically and spiritually. Jira fought not only against Kujo, but the tendrils binding their souls. In a moment suspended in time, she plunged her blade into Kujo's heart, rending their connection. As Kujo's form dissipated into ethereal wisps, Jira fell to her knees, breathless. The severance had taken its toll, and she had reclaimed herself and saved countless lives. Today, Jira wields a hammer and dons armor bearing the likeness of Kujo, paying homage to her most challenging foe yet. She vowed to never again surrender her free will, a defiant stance that's left some arbiters to question her loyalty to the cause. Okay. I'm kind of okay with it. Not gonna lie though, like I'm not a big fan of this whole we have a black character who's being enslaved to a golden lioness storyline. Quite like the way it's done. It's it feels a bit annoyingly cliche. I don't know. There's something about it that just feels like uninspired. That being said, I mean, I don't mind the character. I think that this could work if it was done a little bit better. Just again, it's just not done to perfection, and that's kind of my issue, I guess. Someday we'll go over how to fix some of these, and I think Jira's on my list of people that needs to be talked about. So, and I think these two were equal on release. These three, I should say, the last three. So we're just going to click into Pelagios. Pelagios summons countless tides to deal considerable true damage, maintaining the order of the sea with an iron fist. All right, real talk, I friggin' hate these. Like, it... Rawr. It's a description of abilities, not a description of character. And you'll notice the difference between, like, some of the newer characters and some of the older ones, right? This is trying to tell you a little bit about ability rather than like what this guy is, which is a Poseidon allegory, but whatever, it's fine. The sea may seem safe for now, but only a fool would ignore the darkness encroaching on our shores. Report from Mari, daughter of the tides. While most surface dwellers spare few thoughts for the kingdoms sprawling under the seas, the same cannot be said for their aquatic neighbors. Though largely spared from deleterious effects of the darkness spreading through Tia, the Oceanids are all too aware that their domains could fall next. Spurred by the fall of Arcadia, Pelagios, the furious torrent, has bartered his very soul to build an army capable of protecting his home. There was a time when lawless pirates ruled the seas to the south of Tia. They stole crucial and valuable shipments, destroyed ships unable to afford safe passage, and stole riches and young alike. From the oceanids that reside below the waves, a young Pelagius lost his own parents in a desperate attempt to free him and his captured kin from an iron cage. Grief honed Pelagius like a sword. Over the course of decades, he learned to build waves big enough to drown entire fleets. But revenge did not satisfy him. No matter how many pirates fell to his hand, Pelagius still felt remorse for all that had been stolen from him and his kind. He heard word of gods, of order seeking, justice minded heroes to join them in their righteous cause. Though he had hardly trusted the surface dwellers, he reached out to the Arbiters and found them sympathetic to his cause. For the future of his people, Pelagius allowed his body to be turned into a vessel of divine might. Yet, something of him was lost in the exchange. Like all Arbiters, the Pelagios who set out on the path of justice is not the same man who lives to this day. He is empty somehow, more akin to a great statue than a living leader. Though Pelagios may have lost a part of himself, his frame extends beyond the kingdoms of the sea to the sailors and pirates alike. Pelagios is now a force to be reckoned with, a guardian keen on enforcing his strict brand of law and order on all that would cross through his territory. There are tales of unstoppable fleets reduced to drifting ghost ships as punishment for their misdeeds. Pelagios's reputation alone has shaped shipping routes of to some of Tia's greatest coastal cities. Okay. So it doesn't explain why he's a piercer. Obviously, like a lot of these guys, he's given up part of himself for divine blessing. All right, Eunomia. Eunomia integrates purifying power into her holy light, healing the allies and blessing them with attack speed increase. Yay, thank you for explaining mechanics. Hundreds of years ago, they'd spit on a wound and hope it didn't turn green. These days, healing's all foul smell poultices and tedious chants. Valeria, the Beast Knight. Regardless of their mortal standings, deities are known for demanding payment in exchange for their divine support. Mortals are wise to question the terms of a god's deals. Some demand worship, war, and grisly sacrifices, but others extract a far subtler and more insidious price. Long ago, there was a promising young scholar of the White Tower named Eunomia. Like many academics, Eunomia left behind a wealth of journals and research, some of which has been preserved by the Tower's archivists. According to these historical accounts, Eunomia was an excellent student. She was quick-witted and ardently dedicated to the collection of knowledge. Her interests lie in the healing arts and advancing the field. A faded page of her notes, penned in neat cursive, lists various regions of Tia that Eunomia traveled to in pursuit of her studies. Though she made many impressive breakthroughs in her time as a student, there was a distinct note of regret in what remained of her personal notes. Eunomia laments in one document that had she 10 lives, she would still not have enough time to study the various healing practices of Tia. It would seem this ambition decided Eunomia's fate. Through a series of events forgotten by history, Eunomia came to join a collective of thinkers, warriors, and heroes dedicated to fighting the evils of Tia. Only a single page remains of her time during this crucial period. In it, she writes about considering a new avenue to extend her research, making a deal with the gods. Though it is common knowledge that the first arbiters traded in their humanity for divine power to smite chaos, Eunomia's notes suggest that not all arbiters shared this motivation. Unfortunately, there exists no accounts of what happened to Eunomia after the arbiters made their divine contact. But there have been sightings of a radiant figure among their ranks with the power to mend wounds and cure illnesses with the flick of her hand. If this arbiter is indeed Eunomia, then it would seem that her long-held goals were lost were lost along with her humanity when she struck a deal with the gods. It's fine. I still I hate all of these. There seems to be names forgotten by history. Or too long, didn't read. Whatever. The last one. Constance stands strong on the front lines, thwarting enemies while channeling the power of the Holy Light to steadfastly bolster her allies with healing and inspiration. I've said it enough today. I'm just going to keep going. May the Holy Light shine through you and guide you safely through the shadows. Which is an excerpt from the hymn of the Jubilant Holy Light. Which, if it is, why is that not because if it's a hymn, it should be sang. May the holy light shine through you and guide you safely through the. No, it doesn't rhyme. It's not flowing. It's not a hymn. Anyways. Whether she's crushing the skulls of shrieking skeletons or leading a congregation in prayer, Constance, the hammer of the Holy Light, carries out her duties with unshakable conviction. The daughter of a Holy Light priestess, Constance spent her entire life devoted to faith. But rather than become a priestess like her mother, Constance chose to pick up the hammer. She felt the calling to fight for her faith. Nothing brings her more joy than service to the light. Even among some of the Holy Light's most devoted followers, Constance's fierce determination is remarkable. She wants nothing more than to chase away the shadows of evil, lighting a path for the just. When Arcadia fell to the tides of darkness, Constance gathered a small contingent of knights and traveled to the beleaguered desert. The journey changed her. The tales of abominations and madness told by the fleeing Acadians paled in comparison to what Constance and her companions encountered. The closer they traveled to Acadia, the more evil they encountered. Monsters resembling mangled people, survivors whose minds had been twisted by arcane corruption. They were not for their faith in the Holy Light, or were not for her faith in the Holy Light, Constance and her companions would have never reached the city. While her companions provided aid to the survivors, Constance gazed on the ruins of Acadia. Among the sands and webs of corruption, she saw great evil and great opportunity. The Holy Light, Constance believed, had led her down this dark path for a reason. She was to serve as a beacon that she would drive away the shadows and light the path for all who had suffered. Constance's faith was bolstered in the ruins of Acadia, but her crusade had only just begun. Even years after the fall of Acadia, Constance fights to preserve the light and find a way to destroy the corruption shadowing her beloved Tia. This didn't say anything. Okay, so she's a paladin. She likes to lead from the front. But, we don't know what happened at Acadia. right? We just know that her faith was, you know, you see the point, right? She was, but like, who's this imminent evil, right? Okay. Among the sand and the webs that she saw a great evil. She saw great evil. What is it? All the stuff that she saw before, and now she's just, I'm good with it. Like, is this just her processing? I don't know. It's a little meh. Yeah, that's it. Just meh. So all in all, there's certainly something to be said for the Supreme Arbiters, right? They're all, in a sense, humans that gave up their humanity for divine power. Um, and that's kind of all I'm going to say about them. In all honesty, I think there's not much more to be said about the Supreme Arbiters at this time. Um, just given the fact that they really don't have much to say, right? Like, there's really not a lot there. So we will go into the Chaos Dominion next. And something with the Chaos Dominion that I do want to call out is that we do have an epic that I will be going over. These three, however, are not going to be read. I just don't have a lot of time. And given the fact that I'm trying to do like 5 or so at a time, right, you can kind of see where we're going to have, 1, 2, 3 videos. And I kind of want to keep it to that. Like, that feels like a lot of videos for these 18, or sorry, technically the 15, 12, hey, math, 15 that I will be reading. So 5 at a time gives us, the whole thing. And yeah, I think that is it for today. So if you like this kind of content, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. Consider leaving this video a like. It takes a lot of effort to read through these stories. I'm not a very good reader. I don't articulate well all the time. So it is kind of fun to do this particular project, even though it is not my exact skill set. I do promise that when we get through all of this, we're going to then do what I like to call let's fix this. So I want to get to the end, and then we're going to fix it, which is going to take some time. But at the end of all of this, we will. And then going forward, we'll try to go through heroes as they come out. So thank you guys so much for your time, and I will see you on the next one.